So when I teach about the Civil War, I always teach about habeas corpus. But now that it's coming up in the news, thanks to the Trump administration, I feel like my students are going to be much more interested, and I hear that you are too. So let's unpack what the hell is habeas corpus and why you should care in 2025. Habeas corpus is Latin for you shall have the body. Basically just means that the government can't just disappear you. It must take you before a judge and explain why, in fact, you are being detained. Oh, and by the way, it has nothing to do with Article 2 of the Constitution, the executive powers. Habeas corpus is actually in Article 1 of the Constitution, which is about the legislative branch. And it's actually Section 9, powers denied Congress. And it says the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion of the public safety may require it. So in other words, it's something that Congress can't do. And it also has nothing to do with the powers of the executive branch. That being said, Lincoln, executive branch, did suspend habeas corpus in 1861. His reasoning was that it was a way to stop more states from seceding from the Union. In this case, it was the state of Maryland that remained a border state throughout the war. And in the case of Ex parte Merryman, a U.S. federal court challenged the president's authority to suspend the writ of habeas corpus during a national emergency. The case centered around a guy named John Merryman, a Maryland militia lieutenant, arrested for allegedly destroying railroad bridges, and he was imprisoned at Fort McHenry. Merryman filed a writ of habeas corpus, which President Lincoln suspended. Lincoln ignored the decision. His main goal was to save the Union, after all, and he didn't see the Constitution as a suicide pact. Well, let's be honest, the writ of habeas corpus has not protected everyone in this country. If you remember, after 9/11, Bush detained hundreds at Guantanamo Bay. And in the 2008 case of Boumediene versus Bush, the Supreme Court ruled that even non-citizens held offshore still have the right to challenge an unlawful detention. Stephen Miller was the architect behind all these unlawful detentions of immigrants, sometimes without timely hearings or lawyers. And once again, he's floating this idea of suspending habeas corpus, which, remember, is under legislative powers, not executive, basically saying that we are under invasion, so they have the right to do so. Habeas corpus keeps government power in check. Because if they could disappear someone without cause today, what's stopping them from doing it to you or me tomorrow? That's why you should care about habeas corpus in 2025.